The other day, I got a really great question about getting hired at the Apple Store. Someone said, Ben, I want to apply an interview for a role at the Apple Store, but I don't have any customer service experience. How can I answer the questions they're going to ask me? And that's a great question. In today's video, I'm going to take you through how to interview at Apple if you don't have a ton or any customer service experience. Let's go. Now let me start with the good news. You can still get hired at the Apple Store even without any customer service experience. Why? Because they're looking for traits and behaviors more than looking for someone who necessarily has that apples to apples experience. While in the perfect world, someone has a great knowledge of Apple and they have customer service experience, Apple's hiring people all the time who don't have that experience. So let me talk about what it means for you practically as you go into the interview process with Apple. Now, first things first, you've got to apply, you've got to get an interview. But once you're in the interview process, a lot of people are curious how they can navigate the interview process without customer service experience, because the reality is they're going to ask you a lot of questions around what you've done in the past. They're going to ask you behavioral interview questions like, Ben, can you give me an example of a time where a customer came to you and they had a challenge and you were able to resolve it? Now, if you have no customer service experience, it is going to be nearly impossible for you to give an example of this that actually has happened, right? If they say, give me an example of a time where a customer came to you and they are dissatisfied with the quality of a product they purchased from your store, it is impossible for you to answer that. You've never been in that position. So what do? Now, a few things here real quick. If they're asking you questions and you can give them an example that isn't necessarily customer service related, but it's close enough in your life, like maybe you've helped a family member with this difficult situation, or maybe you've helped a friend, or maybe while you were in school, you helped someone with a technical issue, you can actually use those examples. So if they say something along the lines of, Ben, can you give me an example of a time where you helped a customer with a technical issue with one of the products that they've had? Or that they've purchased from your store. You can say, well, I've never been in that exact situation because I haven't served in a customer service capacity previously. However, recently I had a friend come to me who was frustrated with a product they had purchased, and I was able to talk them through solutions and ultimately fix it for them using my knowledge of A, B, and C. What you did there was you said, okay, that's a behavioral interview question. You're asking me about something I've previously done. I haven't done that, but let me give you a similar experience in which I was able to resolve a similar issue. That's a good way to address it. Another good way to address it is to talk in hypotheticals. So they'll say, Ben, can you give me an example of a time where a customer came to you and they had a question around some faulty equipment they had purchased from your store? A question like that, you can say, I've never been in that position as I haven't worked retail before, but I think this is what I do. First and foremost, I think it's really important that when people come to you with a complaint, you hear them and understand them and let them know they're being heard. Then what you need to do, once they know that you're listening to them and you're set on resolving this issue, you do everything in your power to resolve it. So you can maybe talk to your manager about helping them with an issue or replacing the product. And then what I would do is I would explain to them in detail the next steps, how to go about it, and I'd see it through to resolution and thank them for coming in. What you just did there was you said, okay, I haven't been in that situation before, but let me give you an example of what I might do. Let me show you how I would handle it. Behavioral interview questions, and those are questions where they start with, tell me about a time when, or give me an example of a time when. What they're trying to do is see how you would react in a certain situation based on prior experience. But if you don't have that prior experience, you can still tell them, this is how I would act. And if you do it convincingly enough and you have a plan in place and you can deliver it in a way that is confident and appropriate, it is still going to land with them and they're going to appreciate your answer. So whenever you're asked a question around customer service, I always recommend one of two ways. Either give it your answer referencing an example of where you helped a family member, friend, classmate, any sort of example where you help someone or volunteer that is applicable, or tell them, here is what I would do in this situation. I haven't been in this situation. However, this is how I would handle it. And when you do that, you can still use the STAR technique, which is a framework that I tell people to use when they're answering a behavioral interview question: situation, task, action, result. So if I was in the situation where a customer came in, situation, task, and I was tasked with resolving their issue because they had been delivered a product that was faulty, here's how I would handle it. And then, situation, task, action. The action I would take is I would listen to them, understand them, find out exactly what it was that they were dealing with, talk to my manager about replacing the product with them, let them know that I am sorry that this happened, we're gonna replace it, we're gonna make this right by you, and then make sure that I worked with them to set up their new product and they were happy with the resolution. And then our resolution, they were happy. They thanked me for my efforts. Now, obviously you wouldn't say that, but then I would make sure they're happy with the results and they understood next steps. And I would thank them for coming in and etc. Right? You can still use that framework to explain, here is how I would handle it. The last thing I want to say here is that Apple is looking for friendly people who have a personality, who are looking to connect, and they're approachable. You don't have to have previous customer service experience to appear approachable. You can still be friendly. You can still be engaging. You can still show off a little bit of your personality while still having professionalism. And lastly, if you make it through the Apple interview process, oftentimes, not every time, but a lot of times, one of the steps in the process is a role play situation. And that is a great time for you to showcase your ability to work with customers even though you don't have customer service experience. Speaking of that, I want you to watch this video because if you get to that point, I want you to crush the role play exercise. This right here is a video telling you exactly what to expect when you do the role play exercise, how to handle it, and how to stand out from a crowded pack of competition and emerge as a favorite to be hired at the Apple Store. Watch this one now.